doing a live stream. Today's topic, we are discussing whether someone else can put value on you, right? And the way to determine this is, can somebody tell you how much you're worth? And just, you know, in hindsight, no. The fact is, every individual is unique and has his own value, but this is the one thing I don't get about how people say self worth, self esteem. You know, it starts with self, right? How does somebody else how is somebody else's judgment on you determine your value? Because in order for you to get self worth, you have to build value. And this can be through years, this can be your beginning journey, but self worth has to do with you, right? Your own music, your own exercise, your own discipline, your own journal entries, whatever you do that defines you, that's what gives you value, right? And I think in the end, a lot of people get mixed up and they let criticism and other people's judgment weigh on them. And I always say that self-worth is you determining your own value. Now, there's a lot of people out there that don't know their own worth, right? They don't know how much they're able to give. And just to backtrack a little bit, the definition for self worth, don't hold me to this, but is pretty much saying that, uh, you know, how much value do you have to give in this world, right? How much have you given in this world? How much do you want to give in this world? How much do you want to help others succeed and in yourself succeed, right? That establishes your self worth because I have met some people that have no self worth, right? They like to loathe and be depressed and me, gimme, gimme. Whenever that happens, whenever you fall into a realm of, life sucks, it's not the best, nobody loves me, this is what you must do. You must go and help somebody else, right? And it could be a family member, it could be a friend, it could be a stranger. Because when you help somebody, you help that person not only feel better, but you've done a good deed, right? And it makes you feel better in the end. It gets you out of that messy mindset because once you figure out that this world has more to do with helping others than it is with you, then that's the key. That's the goal of how this life works, right? But, anyways, back to self worth. It's developed over time. I mean, it starts with school, it starts with outside of school, it starts with your job and employment. I can't tell you how many times I've come across people who've worked somewhere for 15, 20 years, 30 years, and have no self worth, right? What does that mean? That means they look at themselves as, well, who else am I going to work for, or who else is going to like me? When you have those amount of years, that is worth in itself. You have to have confidence in yourself, and not only that, but with other people that you have value, right? For example, I just recently switched jobs and I knew my own worth, right? I knew that I have experiences, attributes. Uh, I've been doing this a while. So when the next employer came along, I just stated my reasons for pay, and this is what I want, this is what I'm looking for. And a lot of the times, these employers get into the habit of, well, we don't know about that, or we don't know you. And I always stop and say, hey, listen, this is my life. Y'all called me, y'all are interviewing me for y'all spot. But on top of that, I know my worth. Y'all don't. So in the end, of course, I'm gonna say and do what I think is worthy to me because I know what I can bring to the table, right? And in the other side, you have a lot of people that just don't, either they're not confident enough and they have the resources and experience, or they're just either scared of denial or not getting the job. But anyways, In this podcast, we're speaking on self worth and how to reflect and help others in order to build your self worth, right? Back to my analogy of the workplace environment, right? I end up getting the job for more than what I thought, right? But that's because I went in there expecting a certain result, expecting a certain, you know, amount because I was able to prove it and tell them that, hey, listen, I'm not fresh or starting off or gaining. I come with experience. So the same thing works with your mindset, right? Regardless of where you're starting at, whether it's in high school, middle school, post college, anything, you have to determine your own value. Nobody can do that for you. That's why it's called self worth. And so once you find yourself, once you understand your experience, your personal knowledge, things that help you overcome in this world, then you're able to see how much you're able to bring to the table. Because then what happens is you have a lot of critics out there that are going to be poking at your self worth, right? Like, oh, you don't have enough years, or you're still young, or you don't know anything about that. And in the end, all you can do is kind of giggle or laugh because you know who you are, you know what you bring to the table, and you shouldn't even interact with people like that, right? Because in the end, self-worth has to do with, the responsibility and discipline of the individual. So self-worth has to there has to be value. And I keep telling people, understand yourself, right? Socrates always said it, know thyself. But understand what makes you unique, right? Because you are this special individual, not like everybody else. But on top of that, like, self worth to me is being comfortable in your own skin. And I'll say it again, just being comfortable in your own skin. And you don't get to do that until you try everything and you have new experiences, right? This is how you get to mold yourself, gain confidence, and then just create that self worth. It's that simple. In the end, I think self worth is one of those things to have in your back pocket, whether it's dating, whether it's you getting a new job, just you being in life. You got to understand that mindset is everything in this world, right? And if you correct that, you correct the problem because then nobody can tell you what to do. You know who you are. Now, don't get cocky, right? There's a difference between confidence and just being cocky. Cocky is one of those things that nobody can tell you what to do. You know everything. You just come off arrogant. And in the end, being wise is always being a student, right? Always willing to learn, always willing to find new ideas, work through them, and then share the experiences. And you got to understand, it's gonna take struggle. Struggle is there. It's always gonna be there. Bills are gonna be there. Problems are gonna be there. It's up to you to determine how much you can overcome. Because once you cross that bridge, once you get over that hump of it being hard, you got it under your belt, you got experience, you've gained self worth. That's how that works. But you have to go through these experiences, right? Because nobody can give you that. Nobody. That is something to be taken away by yourself, to be learned, and then get comfortable with it, right? Know what you like, know what you don't like. Once you understand this, you're able to go out and shield yourself from the rest of the world. Or not only that, just you know, if I were to go somewhere right now and something happens, and let's say I meet a kid, a young person, and they end up doing backflips and want to be class clowns. In my head, I used to be a class clown, but I can't do that anymore. I'm a grown man, but on top of that, I know my limits, right? So as far as the backflips, I can't do any more backflips. I mean, I probably can, but probably injure myself. What I'm saying is that you have to be comfortable in your own skin. You have to understand who you are, where you're going, and where you came from, right? Self worth is something that you should nourish and value and understand. And the way to understand it is not only try everything and have experiences, but write it down, right? Like do an audit of yourself of how far you have come, right? We all have these resumes we give employers to, and what do you hand them? Work experience, right? So it starts from early career to your latest. Why don't you do that with life, right? You've overcome a lot of boundaries, a lot of emotional damage or trauma or whatever, and you shouldn't display that. I mean, into your employer. But what I'm saying is that it takes a certain person to overcome and achieve something, and give yourself a pat on the back. So, case in sum, you have to have self worth in this world in order to proceed. Because if you don't have that, you don't have a shield, and this world will get to you. They'll attack you, critics weigh you down, and it'll start to get heavy. But if you know who you are, you know where you came from, and you know where you're going, nobody can touch you. You're unstoppable. But, anyways, leave your comments in there. Let me know if self worth plays a part in early development or late development. Is self worth one of those things that you work on yourself, or do other people's get to mold you on that? But, anyways, until next time, we'll speak soon.